Welcome to today's Lost Souls, where we bring you the most impactful and unforgettable stories from around the world. Today, we remember the lives of remarkable individuals whose legacies continue to inspire and resonate. From iconic musicians to trailblazing activists, join us as we celebrate their extraordinary contributions and bid farewell to those who have left an indelible mark on our lives. Stay tuned for a journey through their incredible stories.
David Gergen. David Gergen, an influential American political commentator, author, and former presidential advisor, passed away at the age of 82. Renowned for his bipartisan service across 4 presidential administrations, Gergen became a guiding voice in the realm of American politics, shaping both policy and public discourse over a remarkable career. David Gergen was born on May 9, 1942, in Durham, North Carolina. His childhood in the family, deeply connected to public service, instilled in him a strong sense of civic duty. Gergen attended Yale University, where his curiosity for history and government flourished. He later won a Rhodes Scholarship to Oxford, setting a foundation of intellectual rigor that would mark his path forward. Gergen's entry into national politics began in the early 1970s, serving as a speechwriter and advisor to President Richard Nixon. His clarity of thought and balanced perspective quickly earned him the trust of administration officials. Gergen's talent for honest counsel, calm under pressure, and ability to bridge divides made him an invaluable asset to both Republican and Democratic leaders. He went on to serve under Presidents Gerald Ford, Ronald Reagan, and Bill Clinton, becoming one of the few Americans trusted in navigating opposing political landscapes at the highest levels beyond the White House. David Gergen became a respected commentator and educator. His insightful analysis on CNN, contributions to major publications, and role as a professor at Harvard Kennedy School influenced countless students and viewers, providing nuanced context during tumultuous political moments. Gergen authored impactful books and essays promoting the values of integrity, bipartisanship, and servant leadership. His colleagues and former students often spoke of Gergen's generosity with his time and wisdom. He mentored a generation of young leaders, always emphasizing the importance of ethical public service. Even as he received numerous accolades throughout his lifetime, including honorary degrees and awards for public service, Gergen remained humble, attributing success to collaboration and the pursuit of common good. Outside of politics, Gergen was known for his warmth and family devotion. He found joy in hiking, literature, and in deep conversations that inspired those around him. The legacy David Gergen leaves behind is not only in the policies he shaped or the debates he enlightened, but in the enduring hope he gave for a more civil and effective government. Troupe. Troupe, a distinguished American stage and screen actor and writer, passed away at the age of 97 on July 20th, 2025, at his home in Beverly Hills, California, just 5 days after celebrating his birthday. His death was due to natural causes. Troupe's career spanned several decades, during which he became well known for his versatile roles on stage, television, and film, earning respect as a consummate professional in the performing arts. Born on July 15, 1928, in North Kansas City, Missouri, Troupe developed his passion for acting early and pursued formal training at the Herbert Berghof Studio in New York City. Studying under the renowned actress and instructor Uta Hagen, before fully committing to his artistic career, he served honorably in the Korean War, where he earned a Bronze Star for his service. Upon returning, he made his Broadway debut in 1957 as Peter Van Dan in the original production of The Diary of Anne Frank. Marking the start of a prolific career on stage, Troupe's talents shone predominantly in theater, where he took on numerous roles in classic and contemporary plays such as The Lion in Winter, The Gin Game, Father's Day, Same Time Next Year, romantic comedy, and his one-man show, The Diary of a Madman, which he also authored. His stage presence and thoughtful characterizations earned him critical acclaim and enduring appreciation from theater audiences and peers alike. In 1958, he relocated to Los Angeles, opening doors to appear in over 75 television shows throughout the 60s, 70s, and beyond. His TV credits include appearances on iconic series such as Star Trek, Cheers, Mission Impossible, Rawhide, The Fugitive, The Wild Wild West, Chips, Knots Landing, Cagney and Lacey, Murder, She Wrote, and many others. In film, he featured in notable works like The Big Fisherman, 1959, Kelly's Heroes, 1970, The Devil's Brigade, 1968, and My Own Private Idaho, 1991. Tom Troupe shared both his professional and personal life with celebrated actress Carol Cook, to whom he was married from 1964 until her passing in 2023. Together, they performed in several productions including The Lion in Winter, Father's Day, and The Gin Game. The couple was honored in 2002 with the LA Ovation Award for Career Achievements, recognizing their significant contributions to the performing arts community. He also co-founded the faculty, an influential Los Angeles acting school, alongside Charles Nelson Riley, further cementing his legacy as both a performer and educator. Troupe is survived by his son Christopher, daughter-in-law Becky, granddaughter Ashley, and several nieces and nephews. His contributions to stage and screen, along with his dedication to mentoring younger artists and enriching the American theater and television landscape, stand as a testament to a lifetime devoted to the craft of acting. Alan Bergman, the acclaimed American lyricist, celebrated for his extraordinary songwriting partnership with his late wife Marilyn Bergman, passed away on July 17, 2025, at the age of 99. Together, they created some of the most enduring songs in American music history, influencing film, television, and popular culture for over 6 decades. Born in 1925 in Brooklyn, New York, Alan's journey into music was shaped early by his education at the University of North Carolina and later UCLA, where he earned a master's degree in music. His career began in television, working as a director and songwriter in Philadelphia before moving to Los Angeles on the encouragement of famed lyricist Johnny Mercer. It was in California, introduced by composer Lou Spence, that Alan met Marilyn, his future wife and creative partner, with whom he would share a lifelong musical collaboration. The Bergmans' prolific output includes lyrics for timeless classics, such as The Windmills of Your Mind, The Way We Were, and It Might Be You. Their first Oscar came in 1969 for The Windmills of Your Mind, composed by Michel Legrand for the Thomas Crown Affair. They won 2 more Academy Awards for the iconic The Way We Were, 1974, written with Marvin Hamlish, and the score of Yentl, 1984, again with Legrand. Their lyrical prowess earned them multiple Grammy and Emmy Awards. They were nominated 16 times for Academy Awards in total, reflecting the breadth of their impact. Besides their success in film, the Bergmans composed memorable theme songs for popular 1970s television series such as Maude, Alice, and Good Times. They were frequent collaborators with legendary artists including Barbra Streisand, Frank Sinatra, Quincy Jones, Michael Jackson, and Tony Bennett, creating songs that blended classic Tin Pan Alley sentiment with contemporary styles. Alan was known for his meticulous and musician's approach to lyric writing, often describing the process as uncovering words that perfectly fit the music. Even in his later years, following Marilyn's passing in 2022, Alan continued creating, composing heartfelt tributes like Wherever May Go in her memory. Their partnership was not only professional, but personal. Married in 1958, Alan and Marilyn's joint contributions shaped the great American songbook and left a legacy of lyrical excellence that remains influential in music and film today. Alan Bergman's death marks the loss of a true giant in songwriting, whose lyrics have touched millions around the world, immortalizing moments in cinema and beyond with poetic beauty and emotional depth. Edwin Feulner. Edwin J. Feulner, a visionary American political scientist and co-founder of the influential Heritage Foundation, passed away on July 18, 2025, at the age of 83. Celebrated as a principal architect of the modern American conservative movement, Feulner's legacy is deeply woven into the fabric of U.S. public policy and intellectual life over the last half-century. Born on August 12, 1941, in Chicago, Illinois, Feulner was raised in a Roman Catholic family and attended Regis University, where his reading of conservative classics shaped his enduring philosophical leanings. He later earned an MBA from the Wharton School, a Ph.D. from the University of Edinburgh, and pursued further graduate studies at Georgetown and the London School of Economics. These international academic and intellectual encounters grounded his pragmatic yet principled approach to politics, policy, and institution building. In 1973, Feulner co-founded the Heritage Foundation in Washington, D.C., with a clear vision: promote free enterprise, limited government, individual liberty, traditional values, and a strong national defense. When he was appointed as Heritage's president in 1977, the organization was only a small collection of scholars. Under Feulner's unwavering leadership, Heritage became the Parthenon of the conservative metropolis, offering concise, timely policy research approaches that revolutionized how think tanks could impact legislation and influence public debate. Feulner spearheaded game-changing innovations such as the briefcase test, producing research in a format that would fit into a busy lawmaker's briefcase and could shape legislation as it was being crafted. His work culminated in the Heritage Foundation's Mandate for Leadership, a 3,000-page conservative blueprint that became a foundational document for President Reagan's incoming administration. This strategy ensured that sound ideas became actionable policy, a model that reshaped the very nature of political advocacy in America. Beyond Reagan, Feulner's influence stretched to every Republican president through Donald Trump. The foundation he led helped cultivate conservative talent and recommend policymakers for industry and government alike. Even after stepping down from his long tenure as president in 2013, Feulner's strategic vision and sagacious advice continued to steer the organization as he remained active on its board until his passing. His public service extended outside Heritage. Feulner was involved in the Victims of Communism Memorial Foundation, served on multiple university boards, contributed prolifically as a columnist and author, and was renowned for his mentorship and principled leadership in academic, political, and civic circles. Feulner is mourned by his wife Linda Leventhal Feulner, their children and grandchildren. As tributes from political leaders, colleagues, and students poured in, he was remembered not just as an institution builder, but as an optimist, mentor, and champion for freedom globally. Through his work and the institutions he shaped, Edwin J. Feulner's legacy of principled, practical, and visionary leadership will continue to influence conservative thought, American policy, and civic life for generations. Helen Cornelius. Helen Cornelius, a celebrated American country singer-songwriter best known for her duets with Jim Ed Brown, passed away on July 18, 2025, at the age of 83. Born Helen Maureen Johnson on December 6, 1941, in Monroe City, Missouri, her music career embodied perseverance, passion, and a deep connection to traditional country roots. Helen's early life was shaped by rural living on a farm outside Monroe City, where she was the second youngest of 8 siblings. From a young age, she nurtured a love for singing and music, forming a trio with her sisters Judy and Sharon during her high school years. This trio toured locally, while balancing school and farm responsibilities, a humble start to what would become a storied career in country music. Despite the challenges of launching a solo career, Helen's destiny in music was undeniable. She initially worked as a secretary and housewife while simultaneously nurturing her songwriting talents. In the early 1970s, Helen secured a staff writer position at Screen Gems, writing songs recorded by notable country artists such as the Oak Ridge Boys, Reba McEntire, and Lynn Anderson. Yet it was her partnership with Jim Ed Brown that catapulted her to national prominence. Together, they garnered the 1977 CMA Award for Vocal Duo of the Year and multiple nominations thereafter. Their top 10 hits included I Don't Want to Have to Marry You, Saying Hello, Saying I Love You, Saying Goodbye, and the Grammy-nominated If the World Ran Out of Love Tonight, among others. Helen's solo efforts included a top 30 hit in 1978 with What You're Doing After Midnight, Baby, and a self-titled album released in 1985 by Dot Records. Known for her warm voice and authentic traditional country style, she also toured extensively, opening for the Statler Brothers and performing in the traveling play Annie, Get Your Gun. Beyond performing, Cornelius was a beloved figure in the country music community. She opened a music venue called Nashville South in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, and later brought her show to Branson, Missouri at the Jim Stafford Theater. She frequently appeared on RFD's Country's Family Reunion, maintaining close ties with fellow country legends and fans alike. Helen Cornelius is remembered not just for her contributions on stage but for her kindness, mentorship, and spirit. She loved the Smoky Mountains, where she spent part of her life, and was known as an animal lover and active cyclist well into her 60s. Her faith and warmth left a lasting impression on friends, family, and fans. She was preceded in death by her parents, her son Joey Cornelius, and several siblings. Helen is survived by her children Christy and Dennis, grandchildren Ross and Morgan, her brother Elvin Johnson, and her beloved dog Bella. Her family requests that in lieu of flowers, donations be made to the Michael J. Fox Foundation for Parkinson's. Research. Helen Cornelius's passing marks the loss of a treasured voice and spirit in country music. Her legacy endures in timeless duets, heartfelt solo work, and the many lives she touched through her music and generosity. Dick Van Dyke. Dick Van Dyke was born on December 13, 1925 in West Plains, Missouri, and raised in Danville, Illinois, a Midwestern town whose tree-lined streets and small community pace would quietly shape his grounded comic style. His mother, Hazel Victoria McCord, worked as a stenographer, and his father, Lauren Cookie Van DJK, was a traveling salesman. Together, they modeled steadiness, thrift, and a cheerful resilience during the lean years of the Great Depression. Dick grew up alongside his younger brother, Jerry, himself destined to become a beloved comedian, learning early that laughter had real power. It could lift a room, reset a mood, and knit a family together after long days of ordinary work. Church, socials, school plays, and radio variety hours formed his first stage, giving him both the appetite for performance and the habit of finding lightness in everyday life. In Danville High School, Van JKK discovered that his gift wasn't only physical, clowning, or an easy smile. He also had impeccable timing and an instinct for story. English teachers noticed he could frame a scene. Classmates knew he could animate a room. The town itself, which produced a surprising pipeline of entertainers, amplified his ambitions. During World War II, he attempted to enlist as a pilot, but was turned down for being underweight. A small detour that reveals the grit behind the gentle persona. He eventually served in the U.S. Army Air Forces as a radio announcer before transferring into special services, performing for troops and sharpening a skill set that blended stagecraft, improvisation, and a performer's feel for reading an audience. the war years clarified his path. He would build a life around making people feel better than when they arrived. After the service, he returned to the Midwest with a practical plan. Marry craft to opportunity. Radio became his training ground. Copywriting, ad-libbing, filling dead air with nimble warmth. While local television offered a laboratory for sketch comedy interviews and musical bits, he formed a nightclub act with friend Phil Erickson, the Merry Mutes, a pantomime duo that toured and taught him how to communicate with economy. One gesture, one eyebrow, one perfectly timed pause could collapse a room in laughter. That economy would define his screen presence later, where even a small movement could bloom into a gag. He learned not to force a laugh, but to invite it, to underplay, so the audience could meet him halfway. By the mid to late 1950s, Van Dyck was crisscrossing the country in a performer's apprenticeship. Morning shows, variety hours, MC gigs, and parts in television pilots that fizzled. Each step added a tool. Teleprompter fluency, quick rewrites, relaxed crowd work, while reinforcing a show up early, do more than asked. Leave them smiling ethic that peers would later praise. New York beckoned with Broadway's promise, and he took the risk, arriving without a famous name or pedigree, only a reliably buoyant presence and a dancer's athleticism hidden inside a lanky frame. Casting directors saw something specific, a clean-cut American everyman who could in an instant vault from sincerity to mischief, from befulement to grace. His life's central hinge arrived in 1960 with the Broadway musical Bye Bye Birdie. Van Dyck was cast as Albert Peterson, a neurotic yet big-hearted songwriter wrangled by love and show business. The role demanded singing, dancing, and comedy calibrated to a heartbeat, exactly his blend, and he delivered it with signature spring-heeled charm. The performance earned him the 1961 Tony Award for Best Featured Actor in a Musical, transforming him overnight from workmanlike utility player to marquee name. It also taught him a durable lesson that the cleanest line from heart to audience often passes through song and movement, where words, rhythm, and physicality merge into a single irresistible current. Even as Broadway opened, television was already taking notes. Producers and writers sensed he could anchor an ensemble while never hogging the spotlight, and that he could sell truth inside absurdity. The comic situation would be outrageous, but his reaction would be honest. That paradox hijinks tethered to recognizable human feeling would soon become the blueprint for one of TV's most revered comedies. Yet before that breakthrough, Van Dyck kept polishing the basics. Clear diction, musicality, and a dancer's center of gravity that let him tumble, trip, and pop back up with balletic precision. The rubber legs gag that later defined his on-screen pratfalls grew from thousands of hours spent learning how not to get hurt while looking like he did. A lesser-known thread from these years is his respect for craft offstage. He read about vaudeville history, studied Chaplin and Caton film by film, and learned why a fall works in one angle and dies in another. He practiced subtlety. Let the hat brim drop a beat. Hold the reaction a fraction longer. Trust the audience's intelligence. Friends noticed a kind of sunny discipline. He delivered warmth as a professional duty, not only as a natural temperament. Decades later, when he would write about aging with motion and gratitude, that discipline would reappear as a philosophy. Keep moving, keep laughing, keep learning. It wasn't a slogan. It was muscle memory from years of making the difficult look effortless. By the cusp of the 1960s, Dick Van Dyck stood ready for the moment that would lock his name into American cultural memory. He had the stage seasoning of Broadway, the quicksilver reflexes of live TV, the physical command of a dancer clown, and the affable decency of a Midwestern neighbor. The next phase would fuse those traits into a character audiences would welcome into their living rooms week after week, and then propel him into cinema, where a chimney sweep, a toy maker, and an elderly banker, proved that one performer could be many archetypes at once. Always human, always light-bringing. The hinge of Dick Van Dyke's public life arrived with the Dick Van Dyke Show, 1961, 1966. Carl Reiner's sparkling sitcom about writer Rob Petrie balancing a Manhattan TV, writer room and a lively suburban home in New Rel, as Rob Van Dyke fused dancers' agility with everyday warmth. Slipping on ottomans 1 second and landing a perfectly timed double take the next. The ensemble Mary Tyler Moore as Laura Rosemary, My Amsterdam, and Rayner himself as the imperious Alan Brady gave him a playground for elastic physical gags and razor-clean dialogue. The series became a foundational text in American comedy. Domestic yet sophisticated, broad yet literate, grounded in love but unafraid of creative chaos. Van Dyke's performance earned multiple primetime Emmys and fixed his screen persona. Amiable, nimble, precise, while teaching future writers and actors that the funniest choice is often the most honest reaction delivered at just the right beat. Hollywood quickly translated that appeal to the big screen. After winning a Tony for Bye Bye Birdie on Broadway, Van Dyke reprised the part for the 1963 film adaptation, playing Albert Peterson, the harried songwriter entangled in teenage hysteria and showbiz scheming. The camera loved his lanky grace. He could make a doorway entrance read as a punchline and turn a stutter-up into a musical flourish. The next year brought Mary Poppins, 1964, whose magical world let him play both the chimney sweep bird, an exuberant guide through London's rooftops, and the ancient banker Mr. Dawes Sr., disguised under whiskers and a mischievous twinkle. While his accent sparked good-natured debate, the performance itself became an American memory, a buoyant swirl of song, tap, and generosity that invited families to believe that a spoonful of sugar and a bit of imagination could lift any day. Success carried into a run of 1960s features that put his versatility on display. In Lynn Robin Crusoe, USN 1966, he was a stranded sailor improvising survival with slapstick ingenuity. In Fitz Willie, 1967, a deceptively proper butler masterminding capers to save a beloved employer. In Never a Dull Moment, 1968, a hapless actor mistaken for a criminal. And in Some Kind of a Nut, 1969, a mild bank clerk whose sudden refusal to conform becomes social satire. Then came Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, 1968, with Van Dyke as eccentric inventor. Caractacus Potts, pairing his song and dance charisma with the Sherman Brothers melodies and a storybook scale that made fantasy feel handcrafted. Throughout these films, he kept refining his signature acrobatic physical comedy that never overwhelmed character, musicality that served story, and a moral center that made audiences root for him even when the plot turned preposterous. He also took riskier swings that explored the shadows behind the laugh. In the comic 1969, written and directed by Carl Reiner, Van Dyke portrayed a silent era clown whose career and relationships crumble under ego and time. The film, bittersweet and melancholic, let him channel his deep study of vaudeville and early cinema into a portrait of genius at odds with life. A few years later, his dramatic turn as a vengeful photographer in Columbo, Negative Reaction, 1974, showed how cleanly he could invert his charm into menace without losing subtlety. These choices expanded how directors viewed him. Not just a family entertainer, but a craftsman capable of pathos and danger when the material demanded it. Television remained a loyal home. The new Dick Van Dyke Show, 1971-1974, kept his rapport with audiences alive. And the short-lived but acclaimed variety program, Van Dyke and Company 1976, won an Emmy while showcasing idiosyncratic talents like Andy Kaufman. In the 1990s, he found a second long-form peak with Diagnosis Murder 1993, 2001, playing Dr. Mark Sloan, a compassionate physician who solves crimes between hospital rounds. The series did more than extend his star power across generations. It built a multi-generational collaboration with his son Barry Van Dyck and brought grandchildren into guest roles, turning the set into a living workshop in timing and tone. The show's tone, gentle, clever, restorative, matched his public ethos. Entertainment as a service that leaves people lighter than it found them. In later years, he embraced self-referential and legacy roles that honored his past while surprising new audiences. He played the Way Senior Guard SEAL at the Museum 2006, flipping his genial image for a caper with contemporary effects and pace. He glided back into Cherry Tree Lane in Mary Poppins Returns 2018, this time as Mr. Daw Jr. delivering a joyous tap at top of banker's desk, an image of vitality and gratitude that went viral as proof that motion and music still lived in his bones. Along the way, he penned memoirs, recorded with his vocal group, The Fantastics, and appeared on specials and late-night stages, always treating performance as a renewable resource. Keep moving and the spark renews. Honors follow lifetime achievement. Recognitions from peer guilds and national institutions affirming what audiences already knew. His body of work had become part of American cultural furniture. Crucially, the thorn of Van Dyck's career is not merely longevity, but adaptability. He shifted from live TV to single-camera sitcoms, from Technicolor musicals to character-driven dramas, from weekly network schedules to event cameos designed for the internet era. The mechanics stayed constant. Clarity of action, musical rhythm, generous ensemble playing, but the canvas kept changing. That is why clips of his black and white pratfall circulate, alongside high-definition desktops and contemporary talk show performances. The technique is timeless because it is rooted in human response rather than trend. The laughter he invites is recognition laughter. I felt that polished by craft until it lands with the force of delight. Dick Van Dyck's public candor about health has long been a quiet extension of his show business ethic. If something he learned might help someone else feel better, he shares it. In the early 1970s, he confronted alcohol dependence, sought professional help, and committed to recovery with the same steadiness he brings to rehearsal. He has described that chapter not as a dramatic transformation, but as a daily practice that sharpened his empathy, deepened his gratitude, and clarified his routines. Decades on, he still frames well-being as a rhythm: sleep, movement, hydration, meaningful work rather than a sprint. He also quit cigarettes years ago and speaks plainly about how much lighter his lungs, voice, and energy felt afterward. The result is a portrait of prevention as craft. Modest choices repeated, composing a life that stays bright. Movement is his signature prescription. A dancer at heart, he treats motion as medicine, building balance, core strength, and quick feet into his mornings the way others brew coffee. Squats against a kitchen counter, heel-to-toe walks, light resistance bands, improvised soft shoe in the living room. He turns the house into a studio where posture and play collaborate. He has said that singing with breath support doubles as cardio, and laughter itself is exercise. It shakes the rib cage, oxygenates, and resets mood. That philosophy took literary form in his best-selling book, Keep Moving, a manual for aging with curiosity. There he translates stage wisdom into daily practice. Mark the beat. Keep your knees loose. Forgive the stumble. Re-enter the phrase. It's practical, not mystical. Show up, warm up, and let momentum carry you past hesitation. The body keeps a record, and his has included a few headline-making scares. In 2013, a car he was driving on a Southern California freeway caught fire. He escaped before the cabin filled with smoke, and later joked that a lifetime of quick exits on stage prepared him for that one. Years later, In March 2023, he was involved in a minor single-car collision near his home and sustained small injuries. Afterward, he emphasized two themes he has returned to for decades: keep your sense of humor and keep your seatbelt on. Between those incidents are the ordinary aches of a performer who has spent a lifetime falling on cue: knees that ask for kindness, ankles that want strengthening, a lower back that prefers motion over stillness. His remedy is consistency, gentle daily workouts, light choreography with his vocal group, and a bias towards standing rather than sitting. He has also spoken about stretches of puzzling symptoms, headaches, fatigue, sleep interruptions that prompted doctor visits and lifestyle tweaks around 2013. Rather than fashion a grand narrative, he kept the focus on problem solving. Adjust habits, consult specialists, experiment with dental and sleep adjustments, and track what actually helps. The message he sends is not invincibility, but responsiveness. Pay attention, then act. He's alert to balance training, knowing that agility, not brute strength, is what keeps a dancer upright in late life. Simple drills, side steps, gentle turns, eyes-closed stands near a counter for safety are part of his toolkit. Voice and breath remain central. Decades of musical comedy taught him diaphragmatic breathing, which he treats like a daily tonic. Long sustained tones, easy scales, and reading aloud keep resonance alive. Walking while humming keeps the lungs honest. He regards singing as a mood regulator as much as a performance skill, and audiences can hear the payoff. Warm tone, clear diction, and phrasing that rides the lyric rather than forcing it. In his 90s, he continued to record and perform with the Fantastics, a practice that blends community, memory work, and cardio into one joyful habit. The group's rehearsals are a micro plan. Vocal warm-ups for breath, harmonies for attention, laughter for stress relief. Nutrition for him is about steadiness and clarity rather than strict rules. He favors simple meals that don't sap energy for afternoon rehearsals, hydrates consistently, and time snacks around practice so that blood sugar supports, not sabotages focus. He treats sugar as a guest star, not a series regular, and stacks the deck with fruit, lean protein, and foods that leave him light on his feet. He has said that the real secret is not what one meal looks like, but how livable the pattern feels. If the plan resists boredom, it will survive Monday and Wednesday, and the weekend too. Perhaps the most influential aspect of Van Dyke's health? Story is psychological. He frames aging as choreography. Unexpected cues, new tempos, altered staging requiring curiosity instead of dread. Gratitude figures prominently. Gratitude for partners who keep him laughing, for colleagues who challenge him, for family who pull him into new projects, for audiences whose applause supplies a renewable energy source. He practices what performers call soft focus. Stay aware of the whole stage, not just the spotlight, and you'll move through set changes without panic. Translated to aging. That means widen attention beyond discomfort to include music, conversation, and the next interesting task. Public appearances have reinforced that model. When he surprised viewers on a reality singing reveal in 2023, it wasn't a stunt about age. It was a case study in preparation, breath, and joy. He rehearsed, paced himself, and aimed for delight rather than perfection, then recovered afterward. With rest and his usual morning routine, interviews around such moments return to the same refrain. Do a little every day. Pick goals that make you smile and be generous to the body that carried you this far. The data point isn't the headline, but the habit behind it. His health legacy then is not a list of triumphs over adversity, but an invitation to a way of living. It says, let movement be your default. Treat humor as a vital sign. Make friends with routine. Build community around music. And keep your curiosity greater than your fear. coming from a performer who has fallen spectacularly for laughs and then sprung up into a dance break. The counsel has unusual credibility. He knows that the floor is firm, that the body learns, and that applause is only one kind of feedback. The other kind is how you feel walking back to the dressing room, loose, upright, and ready for the next cue. Dick Van Dyke's personal story is anchored in family. First in the Midwestern steadiness of his parents, then in the sprawling, interlaced clan that grew around his own career. He married Margie Willett in 1948 at a time when money was so tight. They exchanged vows on a radio program that covered the wedding expenses and honeymoon. A Depression-era practicality carried forward with humor. Together they raised 4 children, Christian, Barry, Stacy, and Carrie Beth, through years of touring dates, early morning call times, and the precariousness of show business before it became secure. The marriage ended in 1984, but the partnership had already forged a family identity that prized laughter, candor, and showing up for one another's milestones. In the late 1970s, he formed a long companionship with actress Michelle Triola Marvin. Their bond, which lasted more than 3 decades until her passing in 2009, represented an adult love grounded in independence and care. In 2012, he married makeup artist Arlene Silver, and their cross-generational ease, full of music, dance, and gentle teasing, rekindled a public image of joy that matched the private reality of daily kindness. Loss has visited steadily, as it must. Across nearly a century, within his immediate circle, saying goodbye to Michelle Triola after her battle with cancer was an intimate sorrow that he speaks of with gratitude for the years they shared. The death of his younger brother, Jerry Van Dyke, in 2018 closed a lifelong conversation between siblings who mirrored and challenged each other's timing and taste. Their rapport, one part brotherly mischief, one part professional critique, had been a running current beneath both careers. Earlier, partings with his parents marked those unavoidable rites that reframe adulthood. You become the elder in the room. Through it all, he approached grief the way he approaches rehearsal. Honor the moment, breathe, and keep moving so that memory remains animated rather than frozen. Professional goodbyes have been just as formative. The cast of The Dick Van Dyke Show, a second family built from shared scripts and live audience nerves, has gradually taken its final bows. Mary Tyler Moore's passing in 2017 felt like the closing of a radiant chapter. Rosemary's in the same year, My Amsterdam before them, reminded him how rare that ensemble chemistry had been. Carl Reiner's death in 2020 was both personal and architectural. He wasn't just a friend. He was the architect of the space where Van Dyke's comic identity crystallized. Each farewell carried a lesson about generosity and collaboration, about writing that respects an audience's intelligence, about the trust required to attempt a pratfall you can't recover from unless your partners are exactly where they promise to be. The musical corner of his life carries its own roll call of departed giants. The Sherman Brothers, whose melodies spun the buoyant worlds of Mary Poppins and Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, are both gone now, with Richard Sherman's recent passing capping a partnership that had supplied the soundtrack to so many family memories. From the original Mary Poppins cast, friends and colleagues like David Tomlinson and Glenys Johns have taken their leave. In the sequel Mary Poppins Returns, he shared the frame with Angela Lansbury, whose death in 2022 added another honor tinged goodbye. These losses don't throw shadows over the song so much as they cast them in a warmer light. Every reprise becomes a reunion. Every verse a reminder that art can outlast the people who made it. Inside his own household, the generational handoff has been a source of consolation and pride. Barry Van Dyke, an actor and director, became not only a son, but a creative partner, notably across the long run of Diagnosis Murder. Grandchildren and great-grandchildren multiply the chorus at birthdays and premieres, and several have stepped onto sets with the same ease that once drew their grandfather to a high school stage. He delights in the rehearsals, the old pro receiving notes from younger relatives on a TikTok beat, the patriarch learning a new camera phone trick so a rehearsal can become a family clip. These everyday exchanges, he says, make grief bearable by braiding past and future into a shared present tense. Van Dyck's approach to mourning is practical and tender. He keeps photographs near, but not as relics. He plays the music out loud. He tells the stories until they grow comfortable in the mouth again. When colleagues pass, he returns to the work they did together, not to sink into nostalgia, but to rekindle craft lessons in context. He revisits the comic to remember the discipline behind a darker note, rewatches a Columbo episode to study how stillness can carry menace, rereads Reiner's scripts to honor the architecture of a clean setup and payoff. Doing so transforms absence into apprenticeship. The teachers are gone, but the curriculum remains. He also practices a quiet ritual of gratitude that knits family grief with public remembrance. At tributes and awards nights, he pivots from spotlight to roll call, invoking the names of writers and choreographers first, then the actors who made the words and steps breathe. At home, he speaks of the people who steadied him, the partner who kept life domestic when fame swirled, the brother who made the punchlines punchier, the friend who insisted on one more take because he knew there was a cleaner laugh waiting. Gratitude for him is not sentiment. It's a way of putting the furniture back where it belongs after a storm. Even as the circle tightens with age, his family continues to be the engine of daily joy. He and Arlene post cheerful snippets of dances, car duets, and birthdays that read less like performance than like a household's heartbeat. The extended Van Dyck clan converges for holidays with the relaxed choreography of a troupe that has rehearsed together for decades. Someone cooking, someone tuning a guitar, someone telling a new version of an old story. When reporters ask how he carries so many losses with such lightness, he points to this living web. Love, work, and play braided so tightly that none collapses when another is tugged. In one sense, the accounting of losses is simply the arithmetic of a long life. In another, it is the hidden syllabus of his optimism. Every farewell intensifies the obligation to show up fully for the people still here. The result is a philosophy that feels both old-fashioned and avant-garde. Write the thank you note. Book the rehearsal room. Learn the verse, dance the step, teach the trick, and pass the laugh along before the lights dim. That is how he holds the departed close by doing the work they loved in the way they taught him to do it. In the present day, Dick Van Dyck keeps a rhythm that looks by design like a rehearsal call. Mornings in Southern California with light stretches, a quick vocal warm-up, and a playful dance step in the kitchen with his wife, Arlene Silver, before coffee and a scan of family messages. He treats each day as a small production. Set a tone, mark the beats, and give yourself something delightful to look forward to by afternoon. He reads, he writes in short bursts, he hums while tidying, and he keeps the house full of music so that breath and posture have a reason to lift. Visitors often find him standing rather than seated, demonstrating an easy pivot or a heel. Toe balance drill as naturally as pointing out a photograph on the wall. The performer's body always one cue away from motion. Creatively, he moves through a portfolio of joyful projects sized to fit his energy and curiosity. The Fantastics, his long-running vocal quartet, remains a touchstone. Rehearsals double as cardio and community, and studio days are organized with the gentle efficiency of a sitcom table read. He experiments with short videos, quick harmonies, tap-and-place desk routines, anniversary snippets that travel well on social platforms without sacrificing craft. Offers for cameos and voice work arrive regularly. He evaluates them by one simple test. Will this be fun for the audience, and will it be fun to do? That test keeps choices clean, whether it's a nostalgic waltz through a classic melody, a wink at an earlier role, or a fresh bit that lets him surprise viewers who think they know every step he can take. Mentorship threads through his week like a leitmotif. He swaps notes with his son Barry on directing choices and pacing, dispenses compact lessons on timing to younger actors and TikTok-savvy grandkids, and treats family gatherings as informal workshops. A phone becomes a prop, a hallway becomes a stage, and a throwaway joke gets one more rewrite until it lands cleaner. When friends mount new shows, he reads drafts and suggests trims. Come in a beat later. Let the audience find the joke. And he delights when a small adjustment raises a laugh curve. It's a view of legacy as a living practice rather than a museum display. Share what works in the moment with the person who can use it. Public appearances now balance celebration and service. He shows up for tribute nights that honor collaborators, offers a reading or a song, and when asked, tells stories that place famous moments back into the human scale of rehearsal rooms and late-night rewrites. He returns to beloved worlds, strolling once more down Cherry Tree Lane for special screenings, trading memories with multi-generational fans whose grandparents first met him as Rob Petrie and whose children now discover him through streaming clips. He delights in intergenerational surprise. A child recognizes him from a modern movie. A grandparent remembers a black and white tumble over an ottoman. The laugh they share is the bridge he has been building for 60 years. Community work remains a steady through-in. He lends his time to arts, education fundraisers, and Los Angeles nonprofits focused on dignity and renewal. Showing up not as a headliner, but as a cheerful teammate. Pose for photos, sing a chorus, auction a lunch. Thank the volunteers by name. He knows that the currency of fame spends best when it buys attention for someone else's mission. And he structures his calendar around that principle. After events, he returns home energized, not depleted. The applause is pleasant, but what lingers is the sight of a room full of people pulling in the same direction. Home life is light, musical, and deliberately ordinary. He and Arlene choreograph small rituals, a two-step while a kettle sings, harmony lines while folding laundry. A quick film of a birthday toast that captures the family's overlapping laughter. He takes joy in learning new tools, editing a short clip on a phone, trying a fresh microphone for clear sound, and then laughs at his own outtakes. The house carries a welcoming hum. Guitars propped near chairs, lyric sheets in a neat stack, comfortable shoes ready by the door. Guests leave with the same thought. The man on television is the man in the living room, and the secret is no secret at all. Work with care. Play with heart, be kind. His legacy feels both panoramic and precise. On television, The Dick Van Dyke Show gave writers a gold standard for character-driven comedy. Real affection at the center, chaos at the edges, wit that trusts the audience. In film, Mary Poppins and Chitty Chitty Bang Bang proved that physical comedy, song, and narrative tenderness could occupy the same frame without canceling each other out. In later series work, Diagnosis, Murder showed how gentleness could energize. A procedural, making decency itself a returning character. Stitch those strands together, and you see a through-in laughter grounded in humanity. Movement serving story, and a performer who never hides the person behind the role. The culture keeps finding him anew. Clips of Pratt Falls from the 1960s populate timelines alongside crisp, high definition. Desk taps from recent years. Interviews about craft circulate with the same enthusiasm as musical cameos. A masked singing reveal from 2023 sits in spirit right next to a 1961 sketch. Teachers use his scenes to illustrate reaction beats. Choreographers point to his soft knees and lifted chest. Wellness writers cite his keep moving mantra as the rare celebrity motto that holds up under daily use. Each rediscovery is less a revival than a continuation. Proof that when you tell the truth of a moment with grace and timing, it remains fresh no matter the format. He measures time now not by credits, but by moments of connection. A hallway duet with Arlene. A rehearsal that clicks into harmony. A grandchild's first clean punchline. A stranger in a grocery store who says, "You made our family laugh when we needed it." Approaching his 100th birthday on December 13th, 2025, he treats the milestone as a party to prepare for rather than a summit. To dread. Keep the legs springy. Keep the voice warm. Plan the cake. And make sure there's a dance floor. If asked for a forecast, he would likely give the same answer he has given for years. Tomorrow rehearsal in some Dick Van Dyke's Today is a masterclass. In sustainable joy. Modest routines practiced faithfully. Art made in community. Generosity as habit. And curiosity stubborn enough to outlast fatigue. The work continues not to chase applause, but to honor the people in the craft that made the applause possible. That is the life he is living now. A daily encore, light on its feet, tuned to gratitude, ready for the next cue. Asterisk.